Okay, welcome to the AI Edge podcast. We are here to help marketing professionals stay on top of AI news and its implications on the marketing and advertising industry. So we are here today with a very special guest. We have Joe Root with us from Permutive. Joe, can you introduce yourself for the listeners?
Hey, Shiv. Nice to be here. My name is Joe, one of the co-founders and CEO at Permutive. We're a data collaboration platform focused on outcomes. So helping kind of media companies and advertisers collaborate on top of their signals.
Awesome. And I have another guest with me. He's back. His name's Myles Younger. Hey, Myles.
I got my teeth cleaned last week. Can you
That's
tell?
important. I could see. The YouTube viewers can see it. I could see your shiny pearly whites. Okay, before we get into the content, I did want to make a quick announcement. So we have announced that we are accepting enrollments for the next AI Accelerator, which is very exciting. We weren't quite sure if we were going to do the May one or not, but we are. Good news. We're doing the May AI Accelerator. So again, this is the leading boot camp for marketers and buy-side folks in the industry to learn about AI and kind of get their jump start. We are, going to run it again as a 2-week program. We're going to have over 8 experts coming in and teaching everybody, all the students about all things AI. And we're really excited also that we have a new sponsor this time. So last time it was Yahoo DSP. This time it's High Touch. So in case you haven't heard of High Touch, they are one of the leading marketing platforms, CDPs in the space. They have been very much like agentic first and AI first. And they're actually announcing something really cool this week. So we're really excited to have them on board. And they're going to do a little teaching about their product in the bootcamp as well. So with that out of the way, let's get to AI news of the week. This was quite a frothy week of news, particularly as it pertains to OpenAI. So let's start with the big news, which is OpenAI raised $122 billion at an $852 billion valuation, which like these numbers are just silly.
Okay, whatever.
Okay, so here are some specifics. Apparently this makes OpenAI the 13th largest company in the world, which is bonkers. Apparently, it only gives them an 18 to 24 month runway based on their current burn rate, which is insane. OpenAI claims to be generating over $2 billion in revenue per month now. They have over 900 weekly active users. We need a new acronym for weekly active users, by the way.
Wait, that was 900 million.
900 million, yes. They did not say a billion, yes.
Well, you said 900.
Oh, I did, sorry. 900 million. Weekly active users, wows. And they have 50 million paid subscribers. They have over $100 million ads run rate. I mean, that's early, obviously. It's been 6 weeks, but they're saying they have a $100 million ad run rate. 40% of their revenue now comes from enterprise, which I find to be interesting because, they're kind of billed as the consumer's app for AI. And obviously they've pivoted more towards enterprise in the last month or so. And so them having 40% of their revenue from enterprise is interesting. And then this was funny. I saw it floating around on social media. Apparently the rumor is that OpenAI shares are not doing so hot on the secondary market anymore. They used to be a really hot commodity. People wanted OpenAI shares. And now people are like, I don't know about this OpenAI thing. And actually Anthropic shares are heating up. So, there's probably not a lot here to talk about other than this is just silly money. But any quick takes, guys? We'll start with you, Myles. Let's go with you.
I don't know. Absurd amounts of money. It's just utterly absurd amounts of money. I would be, other than Anthropic, like I don't know enough about like the secondary market for shares to like really know how much of a bellwether that is of anything. Is that like a thing that tends to fluctuate? I don't know. Joe, like is Permutive, have you raised money?
Yeah, so full disclosure, we share investors with OpenAI. So SoftBank, who kind of did a lot of this round, did our last round. And then our first investor was Y Combinator, which Sam Altman was running when they invested in us. So we full disclosure, like obviously we have kind of connections through that world. But yeah, because secondary market is like a far more liquid market than the primary markets. I suppose in that sense, it's probably pretty good indicator of like broader interest and alignment. And typically kind of primary investors set up the waterfall, so they're better protected if something goes wrong. Whereas secondary investors, I think, have more of a focus on real valuation. So probably something to read in that. But I mean, the valuation doesn't seem crazy to me. Like they're at 25 billion a year, growing 3x year on year. Google, I think, were like 8.5x revenue multiple. So it's like when they cross $100 billion mark, they would justify that valuation. And if they're growing kind of 3x year on year, it's only going to be 18, 24 months probably before they get to that, fit into that valuation. So it doesn't seem wild to me.
Okay. I mean, it does feel like OpenAI is at an interesting inflection point as a business. And I do wonder if there's some like boom or bust kind of stuff going on with them, right? It feels like a high leverage, high risk, high upside investment for all of these guys. But what do I know? I don't know. I don't get to buy stocks on the secondary market. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go to the next news story. Next story. Another fun one. We're just gonna have fun to start the pod this week. So OpenAI bought TBPN. So do either of you know what TBPN stands for?
Joe, have you been on TBPN?
No, I haven't.
What does it stand for, Joe?
I do not know, other than the actual podcast itself.
Okay. We're gonna have to look up what TBPN. Hey, somebody Google
like
it
something.
for me.
It's like something dumb, like Technology Business Professional Network or something.
Yeah,
it's really
right.
like not.
Right.
It's not exciting.
Okay.
Technology Business Programming Network.
Programming.
Have either of you watched it? Have you watched it?
A little bit of it, yeah.
Okay. So OpenAI bought TBPN. It's basically a 3-hour-a-day live show that's streamed live. It's two guys talking about tech. A lot of it has to do with AI. They have been very pro OpenAI prior to this acquisition, like kind of throughout their history. And apparently the price was over $100 million. And apparently TBPN is on pace this year to generate over $30 million in ad revenue. The kind of story behind it was Sam Altman said, we're going to make sure TBPN maintains their independent editorial voice. We're going to also be using TBPN's resources and kind of like the couple of guys that run it for marketing and comms help, because Sam basically says they are genius marketers, which I would agree with. And they will wind down the ad business. So they will shut down the ad business as part of the acquisition, which I found to be somewhat interesting as well. I think, my main takeaway from this news is, Myles, it's a great day for you and I, right? Because we are just two guys talking on a podcast every week.
It could happen, Shiv.
It could, so it's a great day for Myles and Shiv. But anyways, I mean, there's so many hot takes on social media. Like, what does this mean? Like, this is stupid. This is really smart. This is genius. This is ridiculous. Obviously, there's so many examples in history of like tech buying media and what all that means and the implications of that. I think it's silly to assume that, they will just be completely independent. I think that's ridiculous. Like, their checks are coming from OpenAI moving forward. Like, even if no one pushes the thumb on the scale, the thumb is on the scale, right? So anyways, any quick hot takes? Let's start with you, Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, AI is complex, right? So it's a real comms issue, whether you open AI or not, but they seem to have had a few more kind of stumbling blocks than others have in this space. It kind of makes sense there. I think what is really interesting though is like, what does this mean for AI and media companies going to have to resolve their relationship? Like, it's such a broken relationship right now. Like, media companies are not getting paid by AI companies, yet it is the data asset which trains most of them. And like that, I find really interesting. It's like when you look at these companies like Mercor, who are providing kind of these experts to then go in and grade the AI and really help kind of improve it. Like, actually, you can see a world where like media companies and AI coming together becomes a bigger and bigger piece over time. There is something probably to unpack in that relationship.
But Joe, does Permutive work with any news publishers or trade publishers or entertainers or creators like that would resemble TBPN, live streamers, or publishers that have like live streaming arms to what they're doing?
Yeah, definitely. A number of our publishers have these very large kind of audio and podcast networks. Like Vox would be a great example of this.
Okay.
Most of them have actually maybe running as a theme against this is kind of as AI has disrupted kind of some of their audience and traffic in kind of web environments, a lot of them have now kind of diversified into audio and these other channels. So audio is probably the highest growth, like new channel amongst kind of the media companies we work with.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to think about. So if OpenAI is simultaneously a force that is like killing, say, standard web publishing because everything's just getting scraped and pulled into AI overviews and things like that. Publisher traffic's going down, or at least like browser-based traffic. Like, well, what did OpenAI assign value to? Live video. Like they paid money for live video, and so it's interesting to think about like how that translates to publisher strategies now of like, well, what's valuable now? What still has value in the AI era? And seemingly maybe it is live video, which OpenAI didn't discover that. To your point, there's a bunch of publishers already doing this.
Yeah, I think a lot of these media companies know they have this real strength in content creation and figuring out what sits behind it. What a lot of them are realizing is like the channel and the medium needs to shift. So we're seeing like audio channels like podcasts boot up all over the place. We're seeing kind of a growth, like one of our publishers with the essays just launched a fast channel. So we're starting to see them re-evolve off the back of that.
Yeah, I think the key word there is live, right? Live is the key word. It's the thing that AI cannot do. AI can't give you content live. It's all about what happened in the past. And so, there's a reason we're seeing live sports become so much more valuable. It's, it started with, now we have DVR. And so, and we have SVOD and, you can skip stuff. But AI is the same idea in a way. And so it's all, you wonder if that's where content creation and publishing, all of it's going in that direction of just, hey, what cannot be replicated live, great live content, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's funny you say that, like the media companies we have who have these very large subscription businesses, we see as like completely unimpacted by AI because AI can't replicate the work a journalist does to provide insight or research something. And especially when you move into these like industries where that makes a huge difference, like finance, and there's alpha to be found in that. Like, no one can get off AI can't disrupt that sort of model.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on from TBPN. Next top story. So this one is, not as sexy, unfortunately, but I think probably more interesting for us and for our listeners. So OpenAI partnered with a company called Smartly to unveil, they haven't unveiled it yet, but the idea is they eventually want to create conversational commerce ads in OpenAI, right? So right now, I think the partnership's all about more like dynamic ads. So Smartly will power ads that kind of change on the fly based on user and context and, data from the conversation. But over time, OpenAI wants to work with Smartly to have ads that will chat with you, right? And answer your questions. And apparently Smartly is already doing conversational commerce ads on Instagram. I haven't seen them personally in the wild. I Googled around a little bit yesterday and saw some pictures of it, and it's interesting. But I do think it's particularly interesting for OpenAI. And I frankly really like it, right? Because I think if we just zoom out for a second, we know that native advertising works really, really well, right? And, we know that the big walled gardens have really made their ad business on the top of this concept of native ads, right? So if you're in the Facebook feed, you see an ad, it looks and feels like all the other posts, but it's an ad, and Instagram and so on and so forth. Well, what's ChatGPT? It's a conversational medium, right? You're there to talk to it, ask it questions, discover, learn, et cetera, right? So why should the ads just be little static tiles that sit next to that conversation? They should be conversational, in my opinion. So I think this is really fascinating. I think it's the right move. I don't know if, obviously OpenAI is just partnering with Smartly to test it out and then eventually wants to build it themselves or whatever. But this is a path they may go down. So Myles, let's start with you. Any initial reactions to this? Do you think this is smart? Do you think it's not? Anything you'd make of it?
I mean, I'm having to dust off the 10 years I spent building dynamic ads. And this has been sort of one of the holy grails of dynamic ads for a long time, is to make them truly interactive, and conversational. The next question is any normal person interested in that? And there's been a lot of evidence to the contrary, that people don't want to talk to ads in that way. It's not a thing that makes people excited, that pulls people in. And so my head then goes like, well, what might the gimmick be in the world of AI that maybe makes this work? Because we do now have technology that you actually can have a conversation with. That's the thing that changed. Is ad tech in the 2010s or whatever, as much as we wanted it to be conversational, it was not. It was rules based. It was very, very simplistic technology by comparison. Now we have software that you can actually have a conversation with, almost develop a relationship with, and that has changed. And so now I wonder what the gimmick is. And, I wonder if they'll do things like pull sales gimmicks where you'll be in the conversation and they will like offer you a deal right then. The same way as if you talk to a real salesperson. They don't want you to leave. They don't want you to walk away. And they're like, I will make you this offer right now. I, the salesperson, am making it to you. You can't get it online. I'm not going to give it back to you tomorrow when you walk back into the store. And I'm just really interested to see where this goes, because I don't think it's going to look like what we think of as ads or what we have thought of as ads for the last 20 years online.
Fascinating. Joe, what do you think?
So interesting what you say, Myles. Yeah, I think like the hardest piece to figure out is the format. Shiv, to what you're saying, kind of like native ads we know perform so well. What is the native format for AI? And I think it makes a lot of sense to partner with someone who's probably had a head start in thinking about this in this space. So yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. I'm skeptical that kind of longer term OpenAI would ever kind of partner with the traditional ad tech crop, right? I think like there's so many challenges around kind of data security and privacy, and people already have this super personal relationship with their AI. But like this sort of partnership makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I think I when I was thinking about the news, I was like, this is great. Native. Myles, you bring up a great point, right? What do users actually at the end of the day, if the users don't like it or want it, it doesn't matter. And I think it's interesting, like if we play it out a little bit, if I'm shopping on AI, right? I'm like, hey, I need to buy a new laptop, and here are my criteria. Help me kind of research this stuff. Today, what does AI do? It goes out, scrapes the web, finds me deals, maybe makes a little chart, makes some recommendations, etc. Now, if a little box pops up in the right with those companies that the chart has in it, that let's say like, here's Lenovo, for example, click here and, ask more questions about the Lenovo laptop, and maybe just based on the user query, it's already surfacing some extra information that maybe only Lenovo has or can go deeper on based on what the user asked. That could be an interesting hook, right? As a user, I'm already in shopping mode. I do want to learn more about these products. I'm already somewhat trusting the AI to give me some, at least top line recommendations. But then, sometimes OpenAI or sometimes AI's kind of capability ends. And I do need to go to the website today to learn more, right? Or shop around, right? And so I think, Joe, to your point, the key, the devil will be in the details, right, of how they actually do it. And it has to be done elegantly and in a way that is useful to users. But I could see it. I could see a world in which it could be done elegantly, Anyways, okay. Anything else to say on that story? We good? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go. Actually, this is a nice transition to one more. We're going to make this another quick top story because we are just like, this is great. We're going fast this week. Amazon. So we talked about this like a couple of months ago on the pod. Amazon rolled out this concept of having sponsored prompts in Rufus. So Rufus is the AI chatbot. If you go to Amazon.com now, you can start talking to it and use that for shopping. And now it's got little sponsored prompts. So if you like type in, hey, I'm looking for batteries or something, it'll show you all the results and answer your questions. But at the bottom, there'll be these little blue, like, do you want to see which brand is better for 9-volt batteries? Do you want to, buy in bulk, or do you want to just buy a couple, right? And so it'll have these little prompts that are like kind of pushing you to shop in a certain way. And some of those prompts are paid, right? They're sponsored by certain brands. And so they were running this product in beta. Now it's going to GA. And a couple of details about this product. First of all, every advertiser that buys search advertising on Amazon.com will be automatically opted in to these sponsored prompts, which I think is, I mean, this is the Amazon playbook. They did this with Prime Video. They're doing it with sponsored prompts. They just opt people in. They're like, you're buying this stuff, whether you like it or not. I think what's interesting is sponsored prompts are not search ads. So it's not like they created some new surface for search ads or they like lit it up on mobile and now you're just buying mobile and desktop. It's fundamentally different, in my opinion, because it's not somebody searching for a keyword and getting a bunch of results, some of them paid, some of them organic. It's somebody talking to an AI chatbot and then the chatbot kind of like incepting it or like feeding it ideas or ways to shop or things to think about in their shopping journey. And I think that's fundamentally a different type of ad in a different part of the funnel, right? Like it's not in the same part of the funnel. And so I think it's fascinating. And last thing I'll say about this before I turn it over to you guys is it's a really interesting zig to kind of like the OpenAI and Gemini zag around ads, especially OpenAI, right? Like OpenAI is putting ads in there in ChatGPT, and like they want to obviously own that and make it a massive ads business. Amazon sneakily probably has the best opportunity to make ads in AI work. They have, like, first of all, we all agree that shopping ads are the best fit for AI, right? Like, at least at first, we all agree on that. Amazon is best equipped to make shopping ads work in AI, right? And so are they just sneakily going to just be like, sorry, Google, sorry, OpenAI, we got this. This is actually our thing. Anyways, I'll shut up. Myles, let's start with you. Any quick thoughts on this?
You made me have an epiphany about this. So, Joe, we have talked about this on the podcast before, and I'm lukewarm on the sponsored prompts like thing in Rufus, admittedly. And Shiv, you caused me to have an epiphany as to one reason why. So actually, this is going back again to my dynamic ads days. I had a client that was a search arbitrage company. That's just what they did. They just pumped money into search, like whatever. You put $100,000 a day in and you get 125 out. Like that was all they did. And they used my platform can banners to build dynamic search ads. It was ads like 300 by 250s with a bunch of search links in it. So it would be like top credit cards for travel points, top credit cards for balance transfers, top credit cards with low interest.
It's like an AdSense ad kind of.
Yeah. And it would go through some other search engine, whatever. I at one point I kind of understood how the search arb game worked and I've now forgotten. But that's kind of what this is it is basically prompting the user with a search. It's like, here, please perform this search. Like a sponsored LLM prompt is basically as if Google gave you a search up in the upper right. Please paste this into the bar, user. Wouldn't you like to paste this search into the bar rather than the thing you were really looking for? And so search arb affiliate people could make that work because they're cheese balls and they know how to play all these angles and be very manipulative and whatever. But it's kind of like it's a peripheral market in the ads market. That is not a mainstream thing. It was never a mainstream thing. And you caused me to have the epiphany that this has already been possible for years to give somebody a sponsored prompt. In the past, it was a search that you put in a search bar. Now it's a prompt that you put in a conversational interface. And you know me, I'm always looking for the historical analogy, and I just found it. And this is just another small reason why I'm kind of lukewarm on whether that particular angle will work.
Interesting. Joe, where do you want to take this?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I actually hadn't thought of it when I first heard the Rufus news. So it doesn't seem that interesting. But actually, like the challenge I've always seen with kind of Amazon and these retail companies is like, what is truly incremental in what you're doing? And I think Amazon have done this really good job of saying, hey, we've got this retail data, but actually we're going to move our way up the funnel and pair that with kind of top of funnel. And we're really going to work with kind of the data which sits across those to start to drive truly incremental outcomes downstream. But by the time you get into the Amazon like world, I have real question marks over how much of that is like truly incremental ads. It's quite interesting about this is like the way you put it, Shiv, is kind of like actually Amazon now have the chance to like really influence the consumer and say, hey, I need to consider this other product category, and then take the consumer on that journey within a single interface. And that is truly incremental. So I actually find that quite an interesting kind of shift to their model, which, yeah, I hadn't thought about previously.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting too, going back to like the Amazon versus ChatGPT or Gemini, like Amazon right now is playing this game, right, where they're saying, hey, ChatGPT, Google, we're not going to enable you to scrape all our catalog. We're not going to enable you to get all the data from Amazon. So we're not going to let you enable agentic shopping, at least on Amazon, through your chatbot. And that's a huge issue for those chatbots, because Amazon's such a massive source of e-commerce. And so they're playing this game. They're like, hey, we're dominant enough. We don't need you guys to drive sales for us. And we'll build our own AI thing that's on site, right? And so we want people to come to us and not you guys. And I think they're looking for ways to obviously make Rufus better and get more people using it, and then they're looking for ways to monetize it. And obviously we know there's a flywheel there, right? Monetization and making it useful. And, you know, it's going to be interesting. Like if Amazon can be a bit successful in like sucking people's agentic shopping experience out of ChatGPT and out of Gemini into Rufus, something like this could really work. And listen, maybe it's not this, right? Maybe it's something else, but like they have the right to make shopping ads work in AI. I think that's like my overall hypothesis. And so it's going to be interesting. Also related news, and this is a nice segue to just our quick hits. Walmart announced kind of the opposite strategy, right? So Walmart's actually been going all in with Gemini and ChatGPT. Walmart announced they're building actually like a contained app within ChatGPT, where you're going to basically be able to go to ChatGPT, but then kind of click into like a Walmart app and shop there and discover and research and then buy in ChatGPT, right? And so I think that's an interesting direction, because like Walmart's massive, right? But they're not as big as Amazon, I believe. And they're just going complete the opposite direction, right? They're like, hey, we're going to actually go where users are going, which is the LLMs. And we're going to build for that. And listen, they're Walmart, so they could probably throw around their weight, and they probably have a lot of leverage with ChatGPT. They're probably not paying them anything, right? They're probably like, hey, we're your poster child. Now go get all the other retailers to do the same thing, and then you can charge them. You're not charging us. But it is interesting, right, to kind of see like the zig and the zag of Amazon versus Walmart. Any thoughts on that?
It's interesting to consider. So one of the issues I have with the Rufus thing, I don't disagree, by the way, that Amazon has a chance to make AI shopping ads work fantastically well. You go to Amazon to shop. Why wouldn't you want an AI to help you do that while you're there? Makes perfect sense. One of the issues with Rufus, and especially these sponsored prompts, not to pick on that particular notion, is it's unclear what sort of the added value of the extra sponsored prompt is, because if it was so beneficial to the user experience, just tell me. Don't make me type in the prompt. Like, just tell, if you got something to share, please tell me. I'm already here to get your help. Whereas when you put a Walmart app into ChatGPT, there is clear differentiated benefit that Walmart can offer there. Direct connection into their inventory, direct connection into real-time pricing, direct connection into back-end fulfillment, and all things Walmart, so that ChatGPT or OpenAI doesn't have to scrape it from Walmart's site, which is a very problematic way to manage the back end of a shopping experience. And so it's just, I'm always trying to think of like, well, what is, I mean, to borrow your kind of phrasing, Joe, like what is the incremental benefit here to the alternative? And to me, the Walmart app in ChatGPT is a clear benefit, incremental benefit, as compared to OpenAI just scraping Walmart's sites, which doesn't work very well. Whereas the sponsored prompt thing in Rufus, it's just kind of like unclear incrementally why they didn't just give me the information anyways.
They're trying to incept you. They're trying to get you to ask the question,
it's almost like those clickbait, the chum box ads that they put at the bottom of the like, well, don't you want to know, Shiv, to your like, to your example of the batteries, it's like, well, don't you want to know which battery that scientists discovered lasts 500 years? I don't know, I guess.
Myles, classic sales tactic. You got to get the customer to say what they want. You got to ask them questions until they say what you want them to say. Okay. Joe, did you have anything to add to that, or should we move?
No, I mean off your kind of intro to it, I think I might kind of go long on Walmart and start shorting Amazon.
Well, I do. Sorry. Now we're like going to just keep talking about this. I do think it's interesting that there's an app, like a Sparky app, that's going to be in ChatGPT. Like, is that something that's going to become more common? It's like, oh, well, OpenAI is actually just becoming an app store in a way of just like retailers and whomever that wants to build their own little app. They don't want to give ChatGPT everything, but they want to be there, right? And so there's some kind of economic relationship, and it's good for OpenAI because it brings traffic and people there, but it's still good for the retailer or whomever. I wonder if that's a thing, right? I don't know exactly what that looks like or how that manifests, but it is interesting that the terminology being used is there's an app in ChatGPT. Okay, couple other quick hits. Criteo launched Criteo, large retail commerce network for ads. They launched a they launched a self-service tool that's agentic for smaller advertisers. And they've been fantastic at driving like e-commerce results through ads for big enterprise advertisers because they have a great kind of dynamic ads engine. They've got, tons and tons of transaction data. They've got a great optimization engine that sits on top of all of that and ties it all together. They've got unique supply. And now they're kind of like, hey, everybody should have this. I think it's interesting. This is not necessarily about Criteo Go, which is what they're calling this platform. I think this is about a larger trend that we're seeing, right? Where big companies, enterprise kind of ad companies, let's say Yahoo, Criteo, companies like Pinterest, who acquired TV Scientific a couple of months ago, they're leaning more into the long tail because, first of all, it's a way for them to compete with the walled gardens. The walled gardens are 80-20 long tail versus enterprise, versus these ad tech companies are flip. They're 80-20 enterprise versus long tail. And the walled gardens are stronger because of it. They have more diversity of revenue. They're not beholden to any one customer. And so these companies want a piece of that, right? They want that diversity. They want that long tail kind of revenue. But in the past, it's been hard for them, right? Because they have to prioritize. They're not as big and they don't have kind of that must buy aspect to what they do or that walk up aspect to what they do. But AI lets them kind of build something like that and make it easy to activate, buy, plan, all the things, right? So again, there's a bunch of companies, Yahoo, and like all these upstarts like Vibe, Jamloop. Again, Pinterest acquired this company called TV Scientific. Comcast with Universal Ads. Trade Desk is even going in this direction. So I think this is interesting, right?
Shiv, if I may jump in actually and ask you, Joe, like, are you seeing this either with your clients where you see them maybe chasing the mid and long tail more, that they can use agentic technology to help onboard these clients and manage them and optimize their campaigns, et cetera? Or is Permutive like able to now kind of accept more and different business than you could in the past because it's just more efficient now?
Yeah, two separate pieces. First piece is 100% seeing media companies start to build more SMB mid-market oriented products. So it was just on a call with a CRO at one of the largest kind of US media companies this week, who's a customer, and he was having this exact conversation with me. I've got this really valuable enterprise segment. It is lumpy revenue though, and I have to reinvest heavily to kind of grow and continue to secure those. I want to build this safe SMB mid-market layer, which is more predictable and reliable for me. And actually I see, and I think this is the most crucial bit, is like that SMB mid-market, we talk about outcomes. Everyone in our world in ad tech is talking about it right now. That SMB and mid-market layer though, more than any other, is so like laser focused on outcomes. And that is a big shift for a lot of ad tech and a lot of the media landscape today to make. Is you're now building an outcomes engine. You're not delivering media. They're different things. They're different practices. And I think that's kind of the niche which someone like Vibe has been able to go in and navigate. Is like, hey, actually, it's taking a while for these media companies to make that shift. but this has to be the end direction of travel for a lot of the larger, more scale players in this space.
Yeah.
Yep. Makes tons of sense.
Yeah. So, like, what about like what's Permutive's version of this story?
You should join our next board meeting. I'll put it this way: is we are not in any way focused on that segment, but one of our first investors was kind of an agency chief who I remember right at the start of Permutive 10 years ago saying, "Hey, like skip all this like agency stuff. You guys should just build a self-serve product and sell to SMBs and mid-markets." I thought, God, like this guy, like, what is he talking about? Fast forward to today, and I finally get it.
Yeah,
but no, it's not on our immediate roadmap in any shape or form.
Okay, awesome. So this is a great transition, Joe. Let's transition to your work at Permutive. So first of all, we'd love to hear a little bit, just high level. What is Permutive? What are you guys providing to marketers today? Where are you seeing kind of AI or agentic capabilities bring value to your customers today? And then we could kind of riff off of that and ask you some more questions.
Yeah, of course. So really high level, Permutive data collaboration platform focus on outcomes. If you look at when we were born around kind of 10 years ago. And we've kind of really slotted into two major crises we've kind of experienced in ad tech. The first crisis was this kind of privacy crisis where effectively like the identifiers and the tracking infrastructure for digital advertising got wiped out, and it effectively became a lot harder to make decisions. The first version of Permutive was effectively going out and rebuilding that data infrastructure across the open internet for a way which could adapt to privacy. So kind of the first generation of Permutive focused very heavily on media companies and enabling them to build data where historically we'd relied on third-party data companies. Today, over 60% of media companies use and are powered by Permutive for all their audience and data building. The second crisis, which kind of we started to sell into and really become part of, was kind of AI has put all this pressure on agencies around their margins and how they make money. And increasingly, these agencies are looking to bypass big chunks of the advertising supply chain and go more directly to media companies so that they can better extract margin and also so that they can build better performance in their products. And it so happens that kind of as we built this layer of data across the ecosystem, that became perfectly timed to enable agencies and their advertisers to start to match this data with those media companies and use that to drive performance and outcomes, but also go more directly to these media companies to transact.
Joe, just a follow-on question to that. Now, when you and I first met a few years ago, certainly my recollection and my impression at the time was that your primary customer at that point was web publishers. And what you're saying is now it sounds like you're sitting between, you have kind of two client profiles. One is those publishers, maybe their web, maybe their app, maybe, probably a lot of different formats and device types. And then on the other side is agencies and media buyers. So, okay, I just wanted to kind of like understand like how Permutive has evolved to your point in response to changes in the industry.
Exactly that. So if you look at kind of the way privacy rolled out, web was the first place it hit.
Yeah.
And then we saw that ripple into the app ecosystem and Permutive got dragged into that world. Then we saw TV go digital and start to experience its own privacy challenges, but also things like fast channels. And as linear goes digital, you lose identity and identifiers, and it becomes very complex and hard to deliver in those environments. And really what we became very good at is like, hey, you have an audience and a data set you want to reach. Regardless of kind of the constraints of the platform or the consumer's choices around privacy, we're going to enable you to deliver that. The challenge has always been like, as an agency, it's hard to work with so many media companies one-to-one. So how do I start to automate certain parts of that where I can connect to multiple in parallel and go and execute this work?
Hey, Joe, so where, I mean, if at all, are you seeing AI show up in your business? Is it obviously behind the scenes? Everyone, I think, is starting to use it behind the scenes, but is it showing up in your products at all? Are your customers asking for it at all? In what ways? It'd be interesting, I think, to dig into that.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, there are a lot of obvious use cases, right? People build audiences within Permutive. They plan campaigns within Permutive. and those workflows have gone fully agentic now. So kind of over half of our customers allowing our agents to go and execute and run those tasks on their behalf. If you go back 18 months ago, it's only 5% of our customer base. So there are these very obvious things which you should do with AI, which we've obviously gone and done. And I think we got a little bit of an early window thanks to kind of Y Combinator and SoftBank into to moving early there. But I
hey,
think
Joe, sorry to interrupt. Can I ask you a
Yeah.
quick question about that? So when you say partners are using agents to come in and do what they need to do within the Permutive ecosystem, like, did you guys used to have a UI and people used to use the UI to do a lot of things, and people now have moved off the UI and their agents are connecting to your agents or via API and coming in and now doing those things? Like, have you seen a big shift there in like kind of software usage or not really? Is that not right?
So the most profound impact has been what I would call human in the loop. So today it is customers who were in our products, using our products and clicking on lots of things. They now come in and they prompt the product, they step away, and then they come back once the work is done and analyze that work. That is probably about 90% of the AI use case. The very rapidly emerging one is as more and more of our customers start to adopt Claude and build out their own internal agents, we're starting to see the MCP layer we wrap around Permutive drive more and more usage. And I think that is going to be really interesting for us, because every time these workflows are used, kind of effectively Permutive gets used more. We used to be very much constrained by how much headcount you could put behind us. And now that headcount can do a lot more. And now we're starting to move to, well, where actually these agents are prompting us instead. And kind of you can see the utilization usage grow with that. So it's really fascinating.
Joe, do you know or able to share when your customers or users are interacting, say, with your MCP endpoints? What are they using? Is it Claude? Is it an internal tool? Is it ChatGPT? Is it an AWS thing? Or like what are they? I'm just kind of curious what they're using on their side, because you have a window into that.
Yes, yeah, totally. So Claude is by far and away the thing. Like when you're talking earlier, Shiv, about OpenAI and enterprise, I can't recognize the OpenAI part in the enterprise piece. I think kind of Claude is by far and away the kind of default and the biggest. What is more often happening, though, is they see Permutive as part of a sequence of actions which they're going to take, and they are building their own internal agents, which their teams prompt and start. And then those agents come to us, ask a question, get the data answer they need from Permutive. They then move it along that supply chain, go and speak to another vendor's MCP, move things along. So we're kind of becoming kind of sequence with these API calls, but Claude, when you talk about just like, hey, people want to very quickly interface and act with us, Claude is by far and away the biggest default.
Yeah, all right,
got
cool.
it. Joe, would you say? I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. Would you say so? You guys are a data collaboration business, right? So you're kind of bringing data sets from different entities across the ecosystem, helping them combine those data sets, in privacy-centric ways, surfacing them where it's needed, et cetera. Is that a fair kind of overview?
Yes.
Okay. Given that, would you say AI is a tailwind for your business or a headwind for your business?
I mean, so we saw this in the privacy era. So I thought a lot about this. It's like everyone called us a privacy company. I think what we more understood was how is privacy going to reshape the ecosystem, and then how do we go and sell into those winners? And I think the way I look at AI is transforming the agency business model. There used to be services businesses where they would make their margin on those services. Clients have put so much pressure on them, so they're now losing money on that services business, and they have to go and find margin elsewhere. And all these agencies are going to find their margin on the budgets and the media which they execute. And when they go to look at, hey, how do we make our money here? What they're increasingly finding is this very complex supply chain, which eliminates any margin opportunity for them as businesses. So I think you can see this in Epsilon, but also in the data businesses these guys are building out, is they're looking at how do we kind of eliminate these players and start to take some of our own margin in these budgets. And Permutive is very effective at driving that strategy for agencies, because effectively on one side, we have these media companies who've already paid for all these data assets and built them themselves, and they can go directly and access these. So that need for agencies to find margin and go more directly to media companies has been this huge tailwind. There's then within the business itself, how do we leverage AI? I think there are really interesting things we can now do which we couldn't before. So actually the most important thing is like planning. Those sorts of things are quite boring. They're obvious things to do. It's actually that AI and agents allow us to hijack a part of our ad delivery which we weren't before, which is we now take control of decisioning and optimization, because we can put these agents on top of our data and signals to start to keep on looking for alpha and then optimize against that. And that's like a really radical change for us. So I suppose two layers. One is like, I think creates a business model disruption, which we sell into. And then part two, it enables us to do something which we couldn't before, which is, I think decisioning is moving into the data collaboration platform, and it's AI which enables that.
Joe,
that's awesome.
I have a more speculative question for you. And let me know if this is fair. The origins of Permutive, a lot of your value prop was rooted in the idea that there were a lot of, say, web visitors that a publisher could not get deterministic signal for. And Permutive had technology to enrich a visit and help a publisher assign more value to these otherwise, anonymous audiences.
Yeah.
So what's interesting to me, if you carry that forward, where, it's like, okay, so ad tech really depended historically on highly deterministic signals. And you were in the business of like, okay, that's great. Your deterministic signal is great, but it's only like 10% of your traffic. So we're going to help you with the other traffic where it's more ambiguous, but we're going to help you monetize that more effectively. We're going to help your advertisers build better audiences, et cetera, et cetera. I see some parallels to the present day with LLMs, where a chat with an LLM doesn't really throw off a deterministic signal for an advertiser. It's a highly qualitative, it's a rich signal, but it's not a deterministic one. And so I'm just curious if this is something you think about, because you've been thinking about that problem for a long time now of what do you do with the user that you know something about, but it's not a binary yes, no kind of a thing.
Yes. So we very much focus on what we call predictive data collaboration. So when we talk about how do you drive outcomes, we think really this is about prediction and how do you identify the signals which are likely to drive an outcome downstream. Now, when you look at the world via that way, the way you build out addressability isn't based on IDs. It's then based on, hey, what signals can I feed into an engine which is going to predict an outcome for me? And those look a lot more like contextual signals. They look a lot more like behavioral signals. And those things feed your decision on whether to deliver an ad. I think what's really interesting with these LLMs is exactly what you said. They throw off so many of these signals. Now, those signals don't necessarily look like identifiers. And actually, like LLMs, to that privacy point we spoke about earlier, I don't think LLMs really want to be pushing IDs and user data around in that way. But they have the same kind of shape of intent and contextual and behavioral signals, which are hugely predictive of downstream outcomes, especially when you can pair that with kind of conversion data to really understand and analyze that. So yes, we really think when we look at kind of some of these developments, we think that there's potentially a role for Permutive to play there.
Yeah, awesome.
One last thing to leave the listeners with. I think it's fascinating, right? Like there's so much data and rich signal that comes out of the LLMs. How do you classify the data, or how do you bucket people? Like in the past, it's like, oh, you visited a shopping site, you're a shopping person. You visited a car site, you're an auto intender. But if you look at data that comes out of a LLM, it's like you said 20,000 words to the LLM and they were, some of it was rambling. Like, where do I put you? There's no bucket to put you in person. Anyways, I think that's going to be a fascinating challenge. Any quick take on that, Joe, before we wrap up here?
I think it's so interesting that you say that. The reason why is like when you look at audiences in the old world, we cared about how big is this audience and like, does it scale? Actually, everything we do now is focused on, hey, how do you cluster your consumers into, on the media side, on the supply side, into smaller and smaller cohorts so that you can start to find where the performance and where the predictiveness is within that. So actually, I don't think like LLMs need to present their audiences as their consumers in these like bucketed audiences. Instead, I think they need to present them in clusters where real performance and prediction can be found.
Yeah, I almost wonder, there's probably like entire kind of companies doing the data science behind how to take the signal and the information that comes out of an LLM and juice as much value out of it as possible for different use cases, advertising, marketing, like all sorts of things, right?
This is exactly why our kind of firm belief is kind of decisioning is going to move into the data collaboration platform, because all of a sudden you need to work with this data in a much more nuanced, complex way. You can't be sat there looking for an ID in the bid stream as the way in which we run this ecosystem anymore.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's enough. We've talked enough. We could keep talking for a long time, Joe, but thank you. That flew by, even though it might have been our longest podcast ever. Joe, thanks for being on. That was a fantastic discussion. Reminder to our listeners, we have announced that we are accepting enrollments for the May AI Accelerator. Please enroll, bring your friends, bring your teammates, bring your family, bring everybody. And we're excited to have High Touch on board as our sponsor. We'll talk to you guys more about High Touch in coming episodes. Thanks for being with us. Thanks again, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much.